Welcome to the show. My name is Dean. New setup. You're going to have to bear with me. This is my first day doing this, and I've tried to do this many times, and it just kind of never worked. And I'm one of those guys that's like afraid of tech, like totally afraid of tech, totally afraid of new setups. You there, Zev? Do I get you?
I am here.
Oh, I'm afraid of tech, but here you are coming in late, Mr. Tech, Mr. AI, Mr. I got a gaming setup with a purple light behind me. I just got I'm rocking the Canadian flag. You can see that.
I've noticed that. That's really nice. It's
all
really
I got.
nice.
Yeah.
You can have an American flag there too, or just a Canadian flag?
No, just a Canadian flag. Yeah, I'm in Canada. But it was funny because I was on with Ken Harbaugh from the Ken Harbaugh show, and our friend Jakob Karsbo, who's going to join us tomorrow. Hopefully, we're going to wait for Malcolm Nance. He's going to join us today as well. And Ken has this American flag behind him, and there's so many people that were cheesing him in the comments, like, get rid of that American flag. And he's like, no. He actually stopped and addressed the comments today. And he's like, that's my flag. I fought for this country. These fucking idiots didn't. None of them did. And so I'm going to keep that American flag up. And you know what's funny, because several years ago, a couple of years ago, before the Carney Revolution here in Canada, the Canadian flag was being flown upside down. Bunch of fucking yokels and dumb hillbillies were putting the Canadian flag upside down on hockey sticks running around. And it was one of the saddest eras of my Canadian life, watching my flag get misappropriated, get owned by the Mike Flynn losers and all the people that are like, it's my flag.
Yeah, totally.
And so I'm claiming this flag for me and progressive, smart-minded Canadians who have the ability to think critically. Ken's doing the same. I would encourage the entire country of America to take their flags back. Like everybody in America. These fucking idiots in the White House don't own your flag. They're pissing on it every day with every decision they make and every comment they come out with, where they take a giant shit on what America stands for, which is what Canada still stands for. So I'm going to take this bitch back. I hope Americans take that bitch back. And I hope that we dance on their graves with these flags, because there's nothing more important to me in this entire conversation than what these flags stood for in the United States, which still stand for in the United States, and what this flag stands for in the United States. Listen, I'm not a flag guy. This is my first Canadian flag, and I've got a Greenland flag behind me. I've got an American flag behind me, and I'm going to decorate this new space to the point where Room Raiders going to go, Dean wins.
Do you think?
But more importantly, patriotic.
We should have a challenge. I'm gonna go for it too, and we'll see who comes out of best. We'll see the best room rating.
Do it.
Listen, I love your patriotism, your nationalism. It's explosive. It's great. And what I also like is the fact that what you're talking about is values. And tonight, it's a mixture of tonight and today. Today's show is going to be all about values. There's so much about values in every story that we're covering. And that's good news, because it's grounding and it will help us navigate a very complicated geopolitical terrain. We're going to talk about Clinton later on, and the deposition yesterday. I put it on for 5 hours last night.
I know. I watch like thousands of people watch your Clinton deposition, and I'm like, that's a gimme for Zev. He's just putting this.
It's a gimme, but also I was the only one doing it.
See it. I know you were.
Yeah.
I know.
That's amazing that I'm the only one putting it up there, by the way. But it's also really interesting that the coverage today has been so bad about it. No one has really picked up on the main story. And I have nothing against Bill Clinton. I just feel like we should let the whole thing be open in the sunlight. We should be able to explore every aspect of the Epstein story. And he is not giving us the truth. I mean, he just isn't.
Dude, do you remember when we had that conversation the other day in the FiveStack? And I'm like, really? The president of the United States that knows about aliens and UFOs and every fucking bad player, good player, every espionage asshole in the United States government, the CIA, the FBI, really, the DNI, really? Bill Clinton had no idea this whole time. It's been going on since the fucking 80s. He lied. You can't take anything he and Hillary said seriously. You can't take anybody who is on Epstein Island or traveled with him or had a long-standing relationship with him seriously anymore. They're all lying. All of them.
And everyone's coming after me today saying, why are you attacking Clinton? Stay on Trump, stay on Iran. Well, it's not about that. It's about finding out the truth, because
Yes.
whoever is out there, whoever did anything, I don't care what label they have, which party they belong to, if they were involved in it, it compromised the national security of America. And it's why we
Mhm.
are in the Iran war today. So everything we're doing about Epstein is directly tied to what's going on geopolitically around the world and the
You
Iran
got it.
war, which is
Mhm.
where we begin today as story number 5. The US-Iran war now expands into day 4. It's kind of shocking when you think about everything that's been happening. The United States is now 4 days into a war nobody voted for. 6
Uh-huh.
American service members are dead. 787 people are dead in Iran. More than 600 of them are civilians. And 3 American F-15s got shot down over Kuwait. Not Iran, of course, Kuwait, by Kuwait, which is also a crazy story. Um, that is not the way things were meant to play out. According to the president, they had picked out the Iranian Revolutionary Guard people that were going to take over from the Ayatollah, but then they accidentally killed them during that initial strike. So the Middle East is now plunging into what we all suspected it would, a regional
Yes.
war where everybody is attacking everybody. Israel invaded southern Lebanon. Hezbollah is launching rockets. There was the United States embassy in Saudi Arabia was bombed today. It's just
Riyadh.
going on and on and on. That's what
Mhm.
we'd all predicted was going to happen, but here we are.
Mhm.
Before we get into that holy war stuff, I want to get your reaction to what's been going on today and just the latest.
It is out of control. We're 72 hours into the war in Iran, and it's already out of control. It's already, not just a mess. You have Iran starting as many firefights as they can in and around the region. I think we're up to 14 different countries that they have attacked. We are at the point where Iran is now not talking to anybody. They're firing at locations that they've had 47 years to plan to fire at, 47 years. And they knew this was coming. And, to the granular, to the point where the Islamic Republic, and I fucking hate them all, the Islamic Republic is legitimately going after hard targets that belong to Western allies, that belong to the United States of America, in and around the Gulf region, all over the Middle East, to the point now. I don't know if you read this today. The United States does not have an embassy or a consulate in the Middle East. They're gone.
They pulled everybody out, and they had to pull everybody out. The entire region is
Worse
now
than that,
being
dude. Worse than that. They're gone. Like there are several embassies that do not exist anymore. There are
like
several
really
US
gone.
military installations that do not
Oh,
exist anymore. And you're going to start hearing about that, because what you're not getting is the truth. You're not getting the truth about the damage that Iran has done to US interest. You're not getting the truth about the actual death count. The death count for civilians is well over 2 to 3,000 as I understand it. The death count for American military people and Americans in the Middle East is well over 50. It's not 6, it's not 8, it's not 12, it's
yeah,
50. And they're going after every hard target. And Iran's goal, and they're really fucking good at it, is asymmetric warfare. Everybody here is really, enamored with these smart bombs, enamored with, Patriot missiles, enamored with interception missiles. We'll get to that in just a sec, because the U.S. is running dry. What the United States does, that they've done for years, and it started with shock and awe in Baghdad, is they put on these performative wars where big explosions, Tomahawk missiles, videos of these massive missile systems coming out of the water from a submarine, banging into a certain city. If you remember Baghdad, the Gulf War, if you remember some of the scenes that we've seen, that was the first televised war, where now they're trying so desperately not to televise this stuff,
yeah,
because what they're doing is indiscriminately bombing different places across the Middle East. And I'm not just talking about Iran. I'm talking about the United States of America. The United States of America is literally engaged in a campaign of a social media war, but to get the best visuals, they got to kill a bunch of people. They have to strike fear into the hearts of people in the Middle East. Now they've opened up a powder keg. They cannot put the top back on. They can't.
yeah.
There is zero chance that they can put the top back on this. Putin has lost control of the war. Donald Trump has lost control of the war. They have absolutely no plan to evacuate anybody. People in the Middle East were getting U.S. consulate emails today going, hey, listen, if you can get across the border into Egypt, maybe you can get a flight there, but you're on your own. We're not going to evacuate you. Every other allied country in that area has evacuated, gone to great lengths to pull their people out. The United States had no plan. Donald Trump had no plan.
Well,
Pete Hegseth had no plan. And now we're in the middle of what is widely known as Gehenna. This is hell in the Middle East, and it is coming for everybody and Donald Trump at the same time.
it's not that they didn't have a plan. They had a plan and then they were screwed over by their partners because we all know that their partners are not trustworthy. And so they have been led into a trap, basically, where, they didn't realize they were going to kill the Revolutionary Guard people they thought were next in line. But they were there. Those people were there. And why weren't the Americans aware of that intelligence? That those Revolutionary Guard people were in the room with the Ayatollah? Why everybody else knew? So why did that information not get to the President of the United States? Because this is another damn trap by the Middle East coalition of countries, in Saudi Arabia and in Israel and the UAE, in order to entrap America in another Middle East war. And Donald Trump is so dumb or corruptible or buyable or all of the above that he is actually willing to go ahead with this. And this is why he's, probably the dumb part is true, that he just isn't aware of how much his so-called partners that are busy blowing all sorts of smoke up his ass he doesn't realize that they are leading him into a trap that is going to cost America a fortune, or he doesn't care, which is also possibly the case. But this is a trap. It's got all the markings of a trap. It's the same thing as happened in Iraq. It's the same thing that happened in Afghanistan. It's the same story over and over again. And if there's one thing America's democracy is guilty of, is not learning our lessons from history. And it's a repetitive over and over and over again that this is happening. And then there's the other news, which you've covered on deanblundell.substack.com, that they're now talking about the literal end of times. Yeah. According to the Defense Secretary, Pete Hegseth, there's now 110 complaints from troops from every branch saying their commanders are telling them that the war is God's plan for Armageddon, the literal end of times. The second coming of Jesus, basically. This is how ridiculous we've got it. We've got a commander-in-chief who, by the way, has this cross, I think you mentioned, from the crusade. And he's now telling his troops and his commanders to tell his troops, hey, you're going to be dying for Jesus.
Yep. Yeah. It's he told them all their martyrs. Listen, I need to tune some people into some things. And full disclosure, I grew up in the evangelical Christian church. The second I became a teenager, 19, went to university. The second I became, an adult in the eyes of the law of the province that I lived in Alberta, which is a hotbed for MAGA right now. I went to university. When I got to university, I had some really embarrassing experiences. And when I say I was in the evangelical church, what people have to realize is that I was brought up in it. It wasn't something I chose, right? And so as someone who applies critical thought to everything and who has an IQ of around 162, when I got to university, nothing that I ever learned in apologetics or policy or, when it came to defending my faith or the faith that I was brought up in made any sense to me. So I get to the University of Calgary. I get into my first anthropology class, and they're like, "Okay, we're talking about the Anthropopithecus, the Neanderthalensis era." And I'm like, "Okay, what is that?" That's these people that were around like 110,000 years ago, and I'm like, "Okay, now we're getting into the good stuff."
Yeah,
but the
do you know
embarrassment and the
Neanderthals
anger,
and Homo sapien woman made it? That was a big news story today.
yeah,
That's
they
how
did Neanderthals and Homo sapien women.
men. Yeah,
That's right. That's why women like bad boys still to this day. Just letting you know.
They do like bad boys.
Hunter gatherers, yeah, they do. But the interesting part is now we're seeing the propaganda for the hardliners come out, and we've got a holy war on our hands. And I'm not talking about Iran. So I put this post out today. U.S. commanders tell troops the Iran war is God's final battle, and they're on a mission to usher in Armageddon or the end times for Jesus. I'm going to get to the email that was sent to us NCOs and listen again. Full disclosure: I grew up in the evangelical church. And this is all we were taught. We were taught the tenets of eternal salvation, never understood why they told us to hate gay people, never understood why they're like, hey, listen, if you say this magic prayer, you're going to go to heaven and fuck all the rest of them. We're going to have this white, beautiful fucking heaven. Everybody's going to enjoy themselves. And I wasn't like the Sunday church guy. I was the guy that went to church where it was the extreme angelical perspective, where they would say earthquakes and wars, they're all signs from God that were upsetting him. And one day the sky's going to crack open. And this is the end times prophecy. The sky's going to crack open. And Jesus and the four horsemen of the apocalypse. I listen, I'd never believed this, but I remember the stories and I'm like, this is not true. The four horsemen of the apocalypse are going to come out of the sky and you're going to hear trumpets. Doo, 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 doo. Here comes Jesus, and he's going to be on a winged horse, and you're going to have a whole bunch of archangels on horses. And for 1,000 years after the end times, Jesus and Satan are going to wage war on earth. And you know who's going to be left? Just the people that said the magic sinner's prayer, who counted themselves as evangelical Christians, who were friends with the Jews, who protected Israel. And if you don't, that's okay. And if you don't do it, you're going to go to hell and you'll lose your ticket to ride in the afterlife. And on the Muslim side, it's called nirvana. Allah, when you die, you go to heaven, you get 72 versions. You can pop those cherries if you want. There's a Christian equal to that bullshit. And so, a couple of days ago,
crazy.
This is a true story. This is a very true story. A couple of days ago, a complaint was received by the Military Religious Freedoms Foundation, along with MRFF and the U.S. Air Force and the U.S. Navy. Hundreds of people that were soldiers that were on their way to fight for America, fight for democracy, were told that they were commanded by God. 40 different units, 30 installations, claims that the military leaders are briefing all of their troops that Donald Trump has been commanded by God to strike Iran in order to expedite the end times. Let me read you this email. I am an NCO rank member in my unit, name withheld. This morning, our commander opened up the combat readiness status briefing. This is a technical briefing for war. By urging us not to be afraid, we might die, but don't be afraid with what's happening with our combat operations in Iran right now. He urged us all to tell our troops that this was, quote, all part of God's divine plan.
Wow.
And he specifically referenced numerous citations about the book of Revelations from the Bible, referring to Armageddon and the imminent return of Jesus Christ, saying, quote, President Trump has been anointed by Jesus to light the signal fire in Iran to start and cause Armageddon and mark his return to earth, to start this 1,000-year war against Satan. The NCO officer then says he had a big grin on his face when he said all of this, which made his message sound even more crazy. Our commander would probably be described as a Christian first supporter. He has been this way for a very long time. And he makes it clear that he desires all of us under him to become like him as a Christian. But what he did this morning was so toxic and over the line that it shocked many of us in attendance. The ops readiness briefing. Besides myself, I am reaching out to MRFF on behalf of 15 fellow troops. They now have over 1,000 complaints about this briefing, saying this is a holy war now. And I know you asked me about the religious views of our group, has requested help. I can only tell you that I am a Christian. At least 10 of the others are Christians. One of the others is Jewish. One of the others is Muslim. I don't know the religious or non-religious status for the other 3 who have complained at this time. There is no difference between what Donald Trump is ordering the United States military to do today in Iran to civilians, to human beings, to people in that country, to Americans. There is no difference between the United States military and ISIS as of to fucking.
Yeah, that's true. horrifying to think that that's actually happening. But where is this coming from? I mean, it's certainly not coming from Donald Trump. Donald Trump does not believe he's godly. He never doesn't act like he's godly. He's not a godly kind of guy. So it's coming from some other force, which is trying to make the world believe that we're either going to have Armageddon, which is one way of scaring people to death, or worse than that, he's actually trying to trigger Armageddon. Because there are a lot of people in that right-wing, Council for National Policy universe that are sort of amplifiers and accelerators of Armageddon. They anticipate and want to make it quicker. They want to make it all happen much quicker. And, that is even more terrifying. I don't know which of those that is actually more terrifying. They're all pretty terrifying. But the one where they're actually either trying to trigger Armageddon or actually expect Armageddon, I don't know. Those two are pretty similar. But it's,
trying to
to have
speed
the
it up.
military in a country where church and state is meant to be completely separated. That's why America is America. To have that collapse like that in one administration is unbelievable.
Well, listen, this has been in the works for a very fucking long time. What better way to get a free army of people who will run headfirst into a frag grenade than someone who believes in a magic sky daddy with no evidentiary proof fucking ever of their sky daddy? Doesn't matter who you worship. And this is going to be an education for a lot of religious people. Right now on planet Earth, we currently worship as a global society of 9 billion people, 4,000 gods, 4,000 of them. Okay. Right now on Earth, there are 40,000 denominations of Christian faiths or religions.
Wow.
Okay? 40,000. They started with one. That was the Catholic faith. One, it's 2,000 years ago. Every single religion is man-made. And every single religion started out as C word, anyone? Cult. So when you look at religion from our perspective today, whether you believe in a certain faith or religion or not, I need, and there are a lot of people that are going to be really unhappy with me giving them this information, but feel free to Google it. The only difference between a cult and a religion is A, the amount of people in your cult or religion, and B, do you have enough people that you have tax deductible status? Those are and I'm not kidding you. These are facts. Cults don't have tax deductible status. Churches do. Now, why is that important, you ask, Dean? Well, in the eyes of the government, my cult is now a religion. Well, who was first to the post? Muslims, Catholics, Christians, Jews. What do we have today? We have an uprising, a holy war between Christians and Muslims in the Middle East, and we're importing it from the United States. This is a country full of fucking people who truly do believe that Jesus Christ is going to come out of the sky with a whole bunch of horsemen on wings and winged horses and blow a trumpet. And then all of a sudden, the people of the United States are all going to fall to their knees and worship Jesus Christ. And he is going to give them a heavenly experience on earth after a 1,000-year war with Satan. This is biblical. This is in the
But he doesn't actually believe
Revelation.
It. He doesn't.
Not only does not Donald Trump not believe it, Netanyahu doesn't believe it. The Muslim regimes that are doing this with the IGRC in Iran don't believe it. And here's the catch. And this is really important for everybody to understand. And I'll get to a quote in just a second, then I'll explain it all. From one of my
people are asking if we're still on the FiveStack. Yes, you're still here. It's just we got to get there. It's a long show today, but it's good.
But the interesting part is that really wealthy nations, they will embrace religion because they know they've got a straight pipe into a group of people who believe in the unbelievable for a reason. And so, what better group of people to get you to give money, to join the army, to bomb abortion clinics, to start fights with people online, to what better group of people than a group of people who believe in a sky daddy with zero evidentiary proof? And I'm going to read something to you. This is from one of my favorite Roman philosophers. His name is Seneca the Younger. Religion is a tool for social control, seen as true by the ignorant, false by the wise, and useful by rulers. That is the purpose of religion in modern
For
days.
sure, for sure. And what's interesting is all these religions have the same story. They keep telling the same story, and they all sort of end with some sort of Armageddon. Because what a great thing to imbue in every mind that there is some sort of horrific end to everything, which is when when you want to start that horrific end, when you want to get there, you can just trigger it, and everyone will say, "Hey, here we are. We are at Armageddon," because they've been conditioned over and over and over again to learn the same things.
Well,
Every
dude,
single
and not
religion in the
just
world.
sorry, not
Yeah,
not to disrupt you, but
yeah.
like these people have sworn a blood oath on the Muslim side and the Christian side to Jesus Christ, their Lord and Savior, and their Lord and Savior comes before their wife, their kids, their government, and anything else, and they will die for it. They will stick pipe
Well,
bombs
because
in
they get the
your asshole.
virgins, the virgins matter.
Well, yeah.
The, the thing you mentioned about Bibi Netanyahu might actually believe this stuff because Rebbe Schneerson, who was the Chabad rabbi in Brooklyn, used to tell Bibi Netanyahu throughout his entire career that he is the last ruler of Israel who's going to hand over, Israel to I guess the Messiah through the temple. I don't know how he's going to do it, but so this is something
Temple of the
that's been
Mount.
imbued in
Yeah.
in the minds of Bibi Netanyahu. And you know who Donald Trump is very close to? The same Chabad church, the same Chabad sect of the Jewish religion. So there's a thread that all of this comes from the same sort of weird cult, which is not even considered by some part of the Jewish religion. It's sort of considered a sect. And that is where that stuff is getting fed through to all these leaders who are buying it.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
and then on top of that, they've obviously got themselves a huge amount of resources to deploy for this effort. So
Hmm.
they've been able to capture the American economy. They've been able to capture the American electoral system, the democracy, and they've done this throughout different countries around the world. So now it's really easy for them to launch what appears to be an Armageddon, even though it may not be one. Sorry.
Mhm. Well, it's not one unless they tell their
Yes.
followers that this is Armageddon, right? This
Yeah.
is the end times, and you can be involved in one of the greatest missions. You can be a martyr for Jesus. You can be a martyr for Muhammad. You can be a martyr for Allah. It's the same on both sides, and not only is it the same on both sides, the end goal is the same for both. The end goal for Israel is to wipe out the regime, wipe out hardline Muslims, wipe out the Muslim lineage, specifically in Iran. The end goal for Donald Trump is to tell his Christian lobby groups like the Falwells and all the fucking losers that live in the United States of America who literally think that they've got a ticket to live forever because they said the sinner's prayer, which is really important. Really important. They said the sinner's prayer, invited Jesus into their life to make them whole and new. And their goal now is to defend Israel, defend the chosen people, and defend Christianity, and to crush anything else and label it as Satanism.
Right.
Satanism.
But the
No,
real goal, the
supporting
real
Donald
goal
Trump.
that the real people behind the powers of all this, the real goal is money. Wars are incredibly profitable for people who invest
Mhm.
in them. And around the world for the last few years, there's been a huge investment in a whole bunch of war, weapons development, in technology, you name it, building up ammo reserves. We've seen it time and time again. And so the world has built up this expectation of war. Those people who have invested in the expectation of war are now expecting war. They want war because they want their returns. So even though this is a stupid premise to go to war for the world to suddenly find itself in a nightmare apocalyptic kind of war, we may still
Mhm.
be driving ourselves right into it because the powers that be, the people who invested in the actual war industry, still want their war and they want their money back.
Well, and they're smart. They're poor. They're rich. They're frugal. They're smart. These world leaders, whether you're Netanyahu or whether you're Khomeini, God rest his disgusting soul, or whether you're Donald Trump. What better way to do it than to gin up a whole bunch of people who will literally believe fucking anything for hope, and to
Yeah.
tell them that they're going to be martyrs, and to tell them to go and attack the other guys, and to tell them it's okay, don't be afraid. Like the generals and the commanders were telling 40 different battalions and 30 different groups, go into Iran, kill as many fucking people as you can because we have a biblical fucking duty that is tied to life in the afterlife. And if you don't do it, you're not going to go to heaven. That's all these people live for. Listen, I cannot express that enough. Whether you're a hardline Christian or a hardline Muslim, an evangelical or a radicalized extremist in the Muslim faith, if you're those people, or even if you're not, specifically if you're not those people and you're going, why the fuck would anybody stick a pipe bomb on their ass or go and run headfirst into a frag grenade or, fly a mission for Donald Trump in the name of Jesus? Because part of this propaganda, part of this cult is there are certain groups of people that believe so wholeheartedly that they would rather be in heaven with Jesus than on earth with their fucking families, or they'd rather be in the sky with 72 virgins and all of their family in an afterlife that doesn't exist. There's no empirical proof. Then they'd rather be here on earth. So they automatically fucking hate it here. They think the earth sucks. They think that living here stinks. They think that we're all sinful douchebags and they can't wait until Jesus comes back and takes over planet Earth. Well, the Muslims feel the same way about Allah, and they have the same promise. And it all happens at the Temple of the Mount in Jerusalem, to your point, which is why there's so many people that are feeding into these Abrahamic wars right now. That's what this is. This is an Abrahamic war. Now you're going to say, Dean, who is Abraham? Abraham is the
No, I
father,
know who Abraham is.
according to lineage of the Muslim faith and the Christian faith. Same guy that was going to sacrifice his kid that day because God's like, go kill your kid on this rock. And Abraham's like, okay, I'll do it, Jesus. I'll do it for you.
Thank you for that. That's
What an
really good.
incredible fucking metaphor. Go and kill your own people in my name just to see if you're serious. Okay, you're serious. These cults are exactly the same. They just branch 2,200 years ago. That's it.
So if you think that's all nuts, the number 4 story is equally as nuts as that, because not only is there a war in the Middle East, the AI company Anthropic, Claude, has now been told that the Pentagon is using their AI to basically attack Iran using the Anthropic AI technology, which is called Claude, to attack the Iranians through their missile technology. Now, last week, you may remember the companies told Pete Hegseth and they told the Pentagon that they're not going to allow their AI to be used for autonomous weapons and for surveillance on American citizens. But that doesn't include that they won't allow their technology to be used to fire bombs at Iran. So all these targets that have been selected by the U.S. military actually supplied by Claude or Anthropic, which is just another terrifying layer to this war, is that we now have an AI component. So it's not only about God and it's not only about oil and money, it's also being done by AI, which takes it out of humanity. It's now almost going to become an autonomous war.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and on top of it, how fucking lazy is the DOD? Right? Like you're going to use AI so that you don't have to do the due diligence to figure out where and how you need to decapitate a murderous regime. Are you fucking kidding me? Listen, this AI slash targeting war, Anthropic versus the United States of America, Anthropic versus Pete Hegseth and Donald Trump is only encapsulated by, the Sam Altman narrative. Sam Altman, of course, in charge and the CEO of OpenAI, who said, a week ago, hey, listen, we're being asked by the U.S. government to give them our tech so they can target people around the world so they can make the United States a better place. And we're going to side with Anthropic because Anthropic doesn't want to do that. They don't want to take the regulations off AI, and they want to make sure that people, are using it for the proper reasons, not to target and murder other individuals around the world. Anthropic then was summarily called a risk to U.S. supply chain management because they refused to bow to Donald Trump, Pete Hegseth. Pete Hegseth is now on the warpath, as with Donald Trump. But the interesting catch here is that Donald Trump, some of his friends from MAGA have been trying to purchase a piece, trying to get involved in the ownership of Anthropic, like they're involved in the ownership of NVIDIA, like they're involved in the ownership of ChatGPT. They want a piece of all of it. And the good folks at Anthropic had the smart minds at the time to say, we're not going to take any of that money. We'll take money from VC to build this out. We'll take money from other people. But what we're not going to do is take MAGA money, and we're definitely not taking Trump's money. Well, what happened? AI, specifically
ChatGPT.
Anthropic, ChatGPT then signed a deal with the Trump regime to give the DOW what they want, or DOD what they want, which is full access, no regulations.
Can
You
we
can
pause
use
there? Because
everything.
what is it that they wanted? They wanted surveillance on American citizens. So
Correct.
ChatGPT has now agreed with the Department of Defense, the Pentagon, to allow spying on Americans using AI technology. That is ChatGPT. Claude said no, Anthropic said no, but ChatGPT said yes. That is a violation of many, many American laws. The fact that that's, flying under the radar of this story is kind of unbelievable. It's a huge story that this technology, which is on many people's phones, it's on many people's desktops. People are using ChatGPT for a lot of important information, is actually being turned into a spy device that is spying on its users and then
Mm.
giving that information back to the Department of Defense so they can do what, pre-crime or label certain people dissidents or gay or whatever it is, and then put you in detention camps. So then you can follow the next steps down the line of what might happen. This is the danger of what ChatGPT's agreement currently with the Department of Defense is causing. And then the next piece of that is autonomous weapons, which means basically fully autonomous weapons. This means that the drones can fly up and decide if you're a threat based on the AI that gives them that information. So, hey, they see you from above the sky. They identify you as Dean Blundell. They say, Dean Blundell, he is a dissident. Shoot him. The drones can
Mhm.
shoot him because the AI said so. And that's the world we're living in. And it sounds completely dystopian. It sounds like it's a science fiction movie, but it's actually what's happening.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. And that's the biggest rub here. That's the biggest issue that Anthropic had. And it should have been the issue that ChatGPT had. And listen, it's not just about surveilling Americans, it's about surveilling anybody that uses ChatGPT. So think about it this way. ChatGPT just gave Donald Trump and his regime access to the back end of ChatGPT to look at anyone and anything who is writing anything or asking any questions about the Trump regime or any of their partners. What are they going to do with that? They're going to weaponize it. They're going to pass it on to other people who, like, if I Googled something on ChatGPT or if I did a search or some research about Vladimir Putin, and these guys have an issue with me, they'll send that information to Vladimir Putin, which also has my Google account, my location, everything that I've ever said, all of my social media accounts, anything that I've ever put into ChatGPT. They have literally and there's a mass exodus of ChatGPT of engineers and lawyers, et cetera, that they brought along for this. They're all quitting. Anthropic has said no. And summarily this weekend, they were not just challenged, but threatened by the Trump regime as a risk to U.S. supply chain management. Well, what does that mean, you said? That means that because they would not give Donald Trump 10% of their company, because they would not allow Donald Trump and this regime to surveil what you were writing and doing and researching on Anthropic as ChatGPT did, they are now threatening to not only delist, but remove Anthropic as they are using Anthropic and Claude to target locations around Iran. They were simultaneously threatening them that if they don't allow us to use this for our express purposes to surveil and target not just Americans, but any location in the world, we are going to delist them and call them a threat to our national fucking security. And it all comes from the fact that the CEO and the CFO and the lawyers and the ethics people at Anthropic said, we're not doing this. We did not build this so Donald Trump could murder and watch people while they slept.
It's total control. And, don't forget, the ChatGPT is able to profile you better than Facebook used to be able to profile you. And that was already a problem. Remember, Facebook could tell you a lot about who you were that you didn't know. Well, your ChatGPT knows you way better than your Facebook did.
Yeah.
And knows everything about you and your family and everything else. Because every time you ask a question, every time you research something, every time you do a piece of work, it knows what it is. And it's already mapped this whole world out. Plus, you tell him or tell it about a lot about yourself. There is a massive problem if this is where we're heading, obviously, because along with that, you've got Oracle taking over the entire news business. You've got Oracle becoming the streaming supplier for everything, which means they control the pipelines for everything that comes to Americans, including now your Medicare and Medicaid data is now being given to Oracle to be the back end controllers of. So all this information is going to be, controlled by entities that are tied to the Trump administration. And that is beyond horrifying. More than that, there are now 900 employees at Google and OpenAI who've signed a letter called "We Will Not Be Divided," saying their companies need to set limits on military AI. That letter went from a couple of hundred signatures on Friday to as many as 900 by Monday. Everyone gets it, and everyone who works in these companies gets it. This is a huge problem. And the Trump administration is insisting this is the only way they're going to do business with these tech companies.
Yeah, well said. Well said. And you're 100% right. And there's a lot of people in the chat that are talking about this being a nightmare. This is your nightmare. Like, people that were upset that Google could track you, put ads. Imagine Donald Trump being able to track you as you were typing something, as you were
Yeah.
writing a piece. If you're a journalist and he doesn't like you, anybody that is involved with the Trump regime that has a straight pipe back into the API of ChatGPT, which they do have now, you're fucked. You're
Yeah.
fucked. And Anthropic just basically said, listen, we're not going to allow you to do that to our subscribers. Anthropic has seen millions of users, paid users, come into their ecosystem. I'm one of them. I canceled my GPT subscription
Good. Everyone should be
2 days
canceling. There
ago.
should be a boycott of
Everybody should.
ChatGPT.
And you should be running into Anthropic. And here's the people of Anthropic. You know what they did? They're now offering free AI courses for anybody who wants to take them. Free school, free university degrees, free. Because they're like, you know what? Fuck this guy. I will stand with Anthropic. I think the general public will stand with Anthropic. And I think ChatGPT has just seen maybe one of their worst weeks ever financially.
Yeah, there really needs to be a concerted effort to boycott ChatGPT. And unless Google announces their same resistance to the same thing, Google as well. I mean, there could be no, fudging on this thing. We can't let AI spy on American citizens. It's against the law. It's not allowed. It should never been even contemplated. But the fact that they're insisting on it in the way it is, it should become law right away that these things are not allowed. The Congress should be passing legislation saying that you cannot use AI in the way that they're intending to use it. And while they're doing that, they should pass legislation to make sure that Oracle can't do what it's doing. Oracle can't siphon up the entire news industry and the supply chain of all the streaming video in the world and let them control everything that comes into American homes, because that is where we're heading. It's uncapitalist, it's undemocratic, it's the worst kind of monopoly you can imagine, and it's controlled by Israel and Saudi Arabia and a bunch of other, not very democratic countries. The number 3 story on the countdown is this one. It was historic. The first time in American history a former president has been forced to testify before Congress. And then we played the video last night. Many thousands of viewers watched along with us. As I was quite horrified as I was watching this, because he's very good at what he does. He's very good at being selectively honest about some things, where he tells you, yeah. Sorry, I should have mentioned Bill Clinton. I assumed that people knew, but so he gives this testimony in front of the oversight committee that's investigating Epstein, and he quite apparently lies about everything. Like, I mean, it's not that it's just his timeline doesn't match. His timeline is completely inaccurate by decades. And my research shows that Jeffrey Epstein and Clinton knew each other as early as the early 1990s. That he, in fact, Jeffrey Epstein was one of the first campaign donors to the Clinton campaign in the early 1990s. When does Bill Clinton say he met Jeffrey Epstein? In 2002. That is bullshit. That is just not true. Now, I have nothing against this president, and people should stop attacking me because I'm doing my job analyzing what Bill Clinton did and said yesterday. There's no point in having him testify if he's not going to tell the truth. And there's no point in having a commission, and no point in even asking questions unless we're going to try get to the truth, because then it's just a propaganda effort, which is what we seem to be going through right now. But it's very telling that Bill Clinton was not completely truthful, in my opinion, yesterday during that deposition. I was going to play some clips, but I can't because I'm using the other system. But
that's okay. That's okay. I'm just really happy that you're coming around to my comments in the heat of the moment, that I found it completely impossible that Bill Clinton had no idea what Jeffrey Epstein was up to. This is someone that seeded the Clinton Foundation. This is someone who Jeffrey Epstein with Bill Clinton had been friends for years. flown together for years, gone to his island for years, gone to Bahrain, gone
But he never went to the island. Never went to the island. Hell no, it would be the
he's
dust.
lying. And you know, you can't that's the problem with this bipartisan effort to try to hang the Epstein files or the mirror the to mirror the you know the terror and the nightmare of these victims according to the political bias that you have. That's the biggest issue that we have today. Everybody's trying to hang Epstein only on Trump. If you've ever watched one of these shows, Zeb doesn't give a shit. I don't give a shit who they are, who they were presidents of, where they came from. I want every single sycophant and every single pervert that was involved with Jeffrey Epstein, that knew anything about Jeffrey Epstein before or after his conviction. And that's where I jump off with Bill Clinton, to your point. And this is something I will tell everybody. You know, a lot of people are in the chat right now telling us to move on, not talk about Clinton. You got, you know, smacked around yesterday by a bunch of people saying, why don't you focus on what Trump did? Stop talking
Yeah, by the
about
way, we're
Clinton.
under attack all the time right now by a whole group of people who are trying to make this an uncomfortable place for people to chat and stuff, which I've been monitoring. Not directly under attack, that's probably not the right word, but there's a lot of disinformation and misinformation accounts that are targeting us because we're getting more and more popular. But, you know, you just keep going.
They can go fuck themselves too.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
everybody that's in this chat that's ridden with us from the start, that is here today, and they see people that dissent, and I welcome dissent. I'm happy to be
Yeah,
wrong.
sure.
I am. But it is not possible for Bill Clinton to have nothing to do with not knowing anything about Jeffrey Epstein according to the nature of their relationship. It is also equally impossible for me to imagine that Hillary Clinton also knew nothing. Almost as impossible, not quite, but almost, as to imagine that a guy mentioned 1 million times in the Epstein files, who Senator Ted Lieu came out today and said, there's videos of this man raping young girls and women, Donald Trump. It is not possible for me to think that that ratio means that these guys were just passengers. It's bullshit. Bill Clinton was lying. Hillary Clinton's lying. Donald Trump is lying. Everybody associated with Jeffrey Epstein, who has sent messages back and forth about getting on the plane, getting off the plane, what will be there. Listen, all of them are lying. And Donald Trump loves the fact that Bill Clinton lied. Donald Trump wants Bill Clinton to be seen.
Oh, yeah, because now he can lie.
Because that means he can lie. And if you remember correctly, Donald Trump put out a tweet prior to Bill Clinton's testimony. He's like, you know, Bill Clinton and I, you know, he didn't do anything wrong. I didn't do anything wrong. It was like this get out of free jail card that he gave him with the Truth Social tweet about a month ago. They're all guilty as fuck. They're all disgusting individuals because they associated with Jeffrey Epstein, even if on the incredible off chance they did nothing to these young girls and women, which is impossible for me to fucking believe due to the deluge of information that said that was the entire purpose of this man that existed in this cabal that he run, which was to trade secrets, to make millions, to garner influence, to garner power, and to do it with a group of people who are also as equally fucking compromised as you. Bill Clinton's testimony, and I watched it for about an hour and a half that you put it. Dude, he is a liar. They're all lying. He's really good at it, as most people are at that level.
Yeah, and I mean, he's lied before about these things. You know, there are 17 visits that Jeffrey Epstein had to the White House that Clinton swears he doesn't know anything about. Now, the White House is a big place. People do work. There's a lot of people who work there. But their claim that, you know, 1,600 people work there, how could he possibly know who comes in and comes out? He knows who comes in and comes out because it's all done by a very complicated security clearance system. They alert you. You know, every time I've been to the White House.
Epstein came in there 17 times to talk to people that weren't Bill Clinton?
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes twice in one day because, you know, you get that many invitations to go inside and out of the White House, you know.
No.
So it strains credulity. But more importantly, then this is the thing, you know, they did terrible things with women, all these guys and underage girls and boys. What bothers me the most is, and that does bother me the most. The second most bothering thing is this was a national security disaster. Jeffrey Epstein is an intelligence officer who went after Bill Clinton. And as some of, you know, I think it was Republicans who kept saying, you know, were you honey trapped? The reality of it is whether it was honey or money trap, in the 1990s, Bill Clinton was going to be a very pro Middle East peace president. And everybody knew that that's what he was going to do. Is going to be a big agenda.
Mhm.
Then Jeffrey Epstein was assigned to him, basically. And I've been told this by people who in the know. Ari Menashe is one of them. Was told me Epstein was there to make sure that Clinton did not sign a peace deal between who? Ehud Barak and I think it was Arafat at the time, but it may be wrong. Or maybe it was Rabin and Arafat. But whichever case it was, I know Barak was involved in one of those things. And what I'm coming out with today, or it might be tomorrow, is when you look at all the people in Epstein's constellation that were involved with the Middle East peace talks around Clinton's time, it is stunning how the Oslo Agreement guy was involved, how Ehud Barak is involved, how Bill Clinton is involved, how all the elements you would want to have an operation around the president that would scuttle those talks were there, including, we now found out, a funder, a big funder, because he was one of the key funders for Clinton, who would also compromise the president later on by having all these, dirty trips with him. So that is the thing that they're covering up. They're covering up a president that became, a tool of the Israeli government, like many other presidents have become tools of the Israeli government. Whether he did so wittingly or unwittingly, I don't know.
Yeah.
But
No.
but there was money involved.
No, and listen, something that needs to be said, witting or unwitting, is that I think there are so many people that think that if you become the president, you're a man of impeccable character. Like you're just let's smash that myth today. I have it on good authority that many presidential candidates, presidents have had many different affairs over the years that have had to have been covered up. And Michael Cohen being one of the worst at it, apparently. Yeah, because he failed.
Really? Huh.
Yeah. Well, he failed, right? With Stormy Daniels and stuff. He got caught. He totally got caught.
Right.
No other president's been caught. Other than Bill Clinton getting a blowjob from Monica Lewinsky in the White House, right? No other president's been caught. We've heard stories of JFK with Marilyn Monroe, stories. This is nothing new. We're not sitting here talking about these people of impeccable character because I don't think we've had a president of impeccable character other than maybe Jimmy Carter and maybe Abraham Lincoln. Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. And you can, Abraham Lincoln had some incredibly racist thoughts as well. He just thought it was really cool that, everybody got a chance to vote. And, as a Republican, which was prior to Republicans being Democrats and Democrats being Republicans, that this was a thing that he thought would unite the amount of voters that he thought would bring him, Abraham Lincoln, to the president's office. That's what Abraham Lincoln was. That's what he did. And so if we're going to sit here and have this conversation about how all of these presidents are, above board, they've never been above board. Like, we're just talking about Donald Trump, but I can guarantee you every single president that we've had has been a piece of shit at some point in his life and has some kind of awful fucking history because they don't put guys like that at the front of the queue. They put guys like that at the front of the queue to become president so that they can take them down if they need to, right? And so when we talk about this president is kind of the perfect president in the moment for the United States of America and what they actually stand for, which is obfuscation, which is destroying public trust, which is, hey, we need to chart a different course as America, da-da-da-da-da-da. I mean, he is literally the Billy Mays of presidents. He'll sell fucking anything to anybody, and he doesn't give a shit how long it takes to do it at all. And that guy is the biggest pervert of all the presidents.
Clinton was a very principled guy. I really believe that. I think a lot happened in his presidency that took him, sideways. And I also, I always go back to the Monica Lewinsky thing and think that thing was such an operation. And the fact that Ken Starr shows up in both the Monica Lewinsky story as the attack guy against Bill Clinton, but then also becomes this great defender of Jeffrey Epstein is the greatest irony of the entire world and the most incredible coincidence / not coincidence of the Epstein Trump story, because how's that even possible that those two things are the same people and it's all one network? And that's the answer. Wow. Comments are very off the wall. We'll have to figure out a way to manage all that. At the number 2 story, this one is very different. For the first time in America, a parent has been convicted of murder for a child shooting their kid carried out. Colin Gray, the father of Colt Gray, the kid accused of shooting up Appalachia High School in Winder, Georgia in September 2024. 2 teachers were killed there, 2 students were killed, 9 were injured. The jury has come back today guilty on 29 counts, 2 counts of second-degree murder, 2 counts of involuntary manslaughter. He's looking at 180 years, and there are jury deliberations that are beginning. Wow, it's a huge thing. The first time a parent has been involved in the actual sentencing of a school shooting. With there's huge opinions on both sides of it. What do you think?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, sins of the father, right? Generally speaking, children become, the manifestation of whatever a parent has put into raising that child. And so, there are a lot of parents that have terrible kids that were great parents that didn't put that, you know, terrible work ethic into their children who turned out to be assholes and the parents are good people. This is a sticky wicket. This sets kind of an interesting precedent, right? Where, you have a parent of a child who went on to kill a bunch of people in a school shooting, and now the parents are being held accountable. Um, and the fascinating part about this to me is that they're holding a parent accountable. Maybe the parent was an asshole. Maybe the parent espoused the same hateful, shitty views. Maybe the parent made it possible for him to access guns and ammunition to commit this heinous crime. But it's kind of a slippery slope, right? And wouldn't it just be fucking easier to get common sense gun laws passed in the United States
You'd think it would be easy to take away the guns. Yeah, that seems to be.
than to go after the parents? This is like full NRA PSYOP 101 to me. I don't know how
It's
you feel,
so
but it's
amazing they'll
just,
blame absolutely everything else except the
but
fact
the
that there's guns in
guns.
their people's homes, which they can
Yeah.
easily access, which is a nightmare. The number 1 story on the countdown today, while all this is happening, there is an actual election going on right now that could reshape the Democratic Party. It could reshape the entire country. In Texas, Democratic Senate primary Jasmine Crockett is running against James Tallarico in the primary there. And this is a big deal because they represent 2 completely different theories about how Democrats could win. Crockett is the fighter, Dallas Congresswoman. Of course, we all know her really well. You've seen her on the oversight committees. We've had her on Substack shows. She goes toe to toe with Republicans and she does not back down. She's been really excellent on the Epstein stuff too. And
Mhm.
she's running a very, very good race with a huge mobilized base. Tallarico, however, is just presidential or seems to be presidential in waiting. Tallarico is a builder. He's Austin area state representative for the state representative council. He's raised Crockett by $20.7 million. That's a huge gap that he has. She's raised $8.6 million. He's probably going to win. I hate to break it, everybody, but we'll see what happens. Um, it's interesting that they've put these 2 people up against each other, 2 such big
Mm.
stars. The stuff happened last week with Colbert. Certainly didn't hurt Tallarico.
Mm. Yeah, and Tallarico and Jasmine Crockett are 2 different people. Like Jasmine Crockett is a weapon. She's a lawyer. She's fearless. He is what Texas probably should be, right? And what should Texas be? Who's going to win in Texas? Who's going to win in Texas is a Christian that doesn't believe there are 7 different binary sexes. Someone who believes a woman's a woman and a man is a man. Tallarico believes that, but also believes we need to respect the human being that is behind those belief systems and how they identify. And that's going to win in Texas. Plus, this is going to sound crazy. He's a white man from a Baptist church who hates Donald Trump. And there is the massive swath of people. We started with a conversation about Christians and Muslims and the evangelical movement. And while James Tallarico might be a Baptist and he might share those Christian sentimentalities, he shares what I believe to be the teachings of philosophical Jesus, not, the Savior Jesus, someone who told people to be kind to others, not hurt individuals, not be mean to people, not, kill others who threaten you, not to be jealous, not to steal, not to really, biblically, all the good things that you would think should come out of that faith. James Tallarico represents those things. Plus, he's a dude. Plus, he doesn't believe there are 15 different sexes and anybody can have a baby and everybody gets to have a period if they so desire. Like, that is going to play in Texas, whether you agree or believe in it or not. The vast majority of people in Texas want someone who represents their faith, does not represent the mean spiritedness and the shittiness of Donald Trump, because they also believe the same things. And when we get down to it, Texas is a close hold state from 4 or 5 very wealthy oil families who are evangelical zealots. And they are the people that are forcing Greg Abbott and Ken Paxton to the front of the line. They are the people that are controlling, the lack of women's rights, reproductive rights, the death of Roe v. Wade. That's those families. So James Tallarico is appetizing to those people, but he's also appetizing to the majority of Texans, which is going to be very interesting. And to your point, I have no question that James Tallarico is going to win because, unfortunately, Texas is also still racist. Texas is also still full of people who like a black woman or a white guy. I'll take the white guy regardless of his perspective. And that's just the truth.
That's really well said. But earlier on, we were talking about how dangerous, you know, religion in politics can be. And we're talking about the problems that they're having in our military right now. It's not great in any democracy to have people who are leading with their beliefs. I don't think Tallarico is, though. I think he understands his faith, he communicates his faith, but I don't think it binds him to policies that are sort of biblical in nature. He's not that kind of Christian. He's a Christian with a belief that, Christianity is about helping people and helping the most vulnerable. That is more consistent with our democratic ideas and values than, the kind of stuff that Donald Trump spews all the time. So maybe it's great to have, in this case, an alternative to Christianity in politics in America, because the kind of model we have right now is awful. I mean, if Pete Hegseth is the model for what a Christian American is like, then we're all going to hell. So, it would be really useful to have someone like Tallarico who can present a different vision of what Christianity is in America today.
Yeah, and it just it just makes political sense, right? To have as shitty as it sounds in that state, to have a guy like James Tallarico represent, the never Trumpers who still are tied to their faith, still tied to their belief system, who have a real issue with the fact that Donald Trump murders his own citizens in the name of Jesus, or tells people that we need to go murder Iranians in the name of Jesus. Those are not the teachings of philosopher Christ, if you will. So.
Yeah,
To
well,
your
he
point,
raped children.
yeah,
It's the most ironic, not ironic, worst things. Dean, your coverage of that holy war thing was so good today. It stopped me in my tracks. I read it twice. I'm so glad you've raised that issue and you've raised that story. It's something that everyone needs to be familiar with, and everyone needs to tell all your friends and family about what this is happening. The military is being told that they're on a crusade for Jesus Christ and that they might die for Jesus Christ. If that's the case, what exactly is the Pentagon and Donald Trump anticipating happening? How many dead people are they expecting out of this war, out of this crusade, as it were? And why do we have a guy like Peter Hegseth as a crusader at the helm of the Department of Justice right now, or Department of War right now? And
I'll tell you why. Pete Hegseth is there because he is a hardline crusade guy. Pete Hegseth is there because he truly is. He does believe that he is ushering in with the United States military, the most fearsome military ever assembled in the world ever, ushering the age of Jesus Christ on earth. He really does believe that. Donald Trump doesn't. Donald Trump doesn't give a fuck. Donald Trump just wants to stay out of jail and enrich himself and his families and check off boxes on his bucket list. So, but he's collected people like Pete Hegseth for this reason. And it works. Man, it works. Look what's going on in the Middle East. You got people that are willing to literally strap a pipe bomb to their backside or put a vest on and walk in spaces and places and blow it up in the name of their God. Well, that is going on now with the United States military. So if you go to deanblundell.substack.com, what you can do is check out this piece where, we've now got over 200 complaints from the U.S. military telling their citizens, the people in their employ, their soldiers, to go and conduct a holy war. And don't worry about dying because you'll be a martyr. It's ISIS in the West. That is what this regime is. And it's really important that everybody pays attention to these signposts, specifically here on Substack. If you go to deanblundell.substack.com, you can check it out.
And on narrative.org, I'm going to play the Hillary Clinton deposition, maybe not in its entirety, because I don't think it's needed in its entirety, but I'll be playing some of that beginning at 5:30. If anyone wants to check it out, we'll do most of the deposition, especially the better bits, maybe just the better bits. That's all at narrative.org. And if Dean will carry it as well, I'll share the link with you. And that is the FiveStack for today. We'll see you again tomorrow. Have a great day, everybody. And
bye, guys. Bye. Bye, guys. See you tomorrow. Bye.
Bye, Dean. Good show.
Bye, buddy. Yeah, not bad. We'll see you tomorrow.
Bye.